So Todd and Julie Chrisley have reported to prison. The Chrisleys were convicted in June of defrauding banks out of more than $30 million. Julie, who was sentenced to 7 years, was supposed to report to a federal prison in Florida, but instead she went to a federal medical center in Kentucky that has an adjacent prison camp. And it's not clear why she's at the medical facility or how long she will stay there. Now, meantime, Todd reported to this minimum security prison in Pensacola, Florida, where he will spend the next 12 years. Todd's prison life will include waking up at 4:45 a.m. before heading off to his work assignment. The prison also includes TV rooms, a theater, and outdoor activities. Erica, what do we do with non-violent criminals? Is this too cushy, or should they be with violent criminals?
I don't know that, Sam. I just know that listening to the depths of their crimes on shout out to the Bravo Docket podcast, speaking of podcasts, is alarming. It's alarming.
Enlighten us and our audience about just the highlights.
Well, essentially, they did cut and paste jobs on bank statements and documents, literally scrapbooking, and saying that they had money that they didn't have in order to parlay loans from one community bank, and I'm saying community for a reason, one community bank to another. And taxpayers had to pay for that, and people in that community had to pay for that. And here they are, high on the hog, flaunting their wealth on television. And I think people really need, we say that punishment is a deterrent. It's a deterrent and a call to other people who think that this might be a way, like, oh, if I can live like this for X amount of years, then maybe I could do 7 years in a cushy prison. Like, that's not a cakewalk. And also, the idea of restitution is a very real thing. We see this with Jen Shaw and her sentencing from Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Not only everyone's like, oh, 6.5 years, that's not a long time to be in a cushy facility, but also that's 6.5 years plus $6.5 million in restitution. That's more money than she actually made. So was it worth it? That's a deterrent.
Now, let me ask you this really quickly. I have to follow up with Jen Shaw, because a lot of people were saying Jen Shaw defrauded elderly people.
Yes.
And she got less time than the Chrisleys.
I don't know. I can't speak to the nature of why that would be. I just know that they're both pretty egregious. Jen Shaw not only defrauded elderly, she also defrauded people with dementia, like people who were unable to even give that type of approval for her to be taking money out of their, credit cards and accounts.
So should Jen Shaw be in a maximum security prison with hard criminals?
I don't know.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
I really don't. Do you think so? Does any?
You were going to say.
Well, Jeff, I was just going back and forth with the maximum security. Is it to punish, or is it that we're worried about her escaping? I don't think that that's the issue. That's why they have El Chapo and people like that in the supermax kind of situation, because he's escaped from prison. If we're talking about people that we're worried about being violent in jail, I understand having them in a different place. But first of all, that doesn't look like a cakewalk, even though I still feel like it's too nice for what they did. The dementia, we talk about separating violent and nonviolent. That's violent to me. That's on the same page. To go after somebody's that's infirmed and can't make decisions. How is that any different than knocking somebody out and taking their wallet from them? It's really it's a disgusting act, and maybe we need to start looking at it like that rather than just like whether you used a gun or not.
Great point. All right, so you guys, great news. Madonna is going on her 12th world tour. She made the announcement in a unique video with some of her pals like Jack Black, Lil Wayne, Amy Schumer. Watch.
Tropical on the island breeze, all of nature wild and free. This is where I long to be, La Isla Bonita.
Wait, hold up. That's a lot of songs. It's a lot of songs. You think people would come to that show?
I'll be there.
Well, I'll be there.
You there?
Yeah, I'm there.
There?
Okay, so the answer is
Yes.
That's not an answer.
Madonna, who is 64, has been going on tour since the mid-'80s. Her Blonde Ambition tour in 1990 made over $60 million. Her last two tours were back in 2016 and 2020. But this is the greatest hits tour, Jeff. Are you going to go, or do you want to go if it was not super expensive?
No, I'm not going.
What?
But I was just thinking,
Jeff,
like, sitting at that table, how many people didn't know the words to that when Madonna started singing, and they're like, and they just, like, did the beat. You don't know the words to that song.
But we all know the the song.
Do you know the words to the song?
Mahasa Bonita.
Exactly.
when Jeff
You don't
said it.
know exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I won't be going. Tickets are like $1,000. I mean, for me, it's not my bag, baby.
Erica, I saw you singing and jamming.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. When we first talked about this early this morning, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then when I like saw it and heard it, I'm like, I might have to save my little dollars.
I think so too. I'll go
I
with
mean,
you.
it's like the suit. It's really. For her to do the greatest hits is like her Super Bowl. So if she's coming to Denver,
She's coming to Denver in July.
Let me tell you something, though. Marcy told me last time she went
Marcy,
to
our stage manager.
Our stage manager told us last time she went to a Madonna concert. Marcy, she was 3 hours late.
Oh, I did hear about them.
See, man, I'm not. Listen,
That's not cool.
No, that's not cool at all.
But maybe she's grown and evolved, you know? How cool was her outfit? The gloves, the fingerless gloves, the jewelry.
I felt like she looked a little strange.
Well,
I feel like-
she's had work done, but I think she
Yeah.
likes that avant-garde look. I think she looks cool. Sorry.
Avant-garde? Where's her
Very
eyebrows?
Avant-garde.
It's a
That's
different.
like a
Is she
thing
not
now.
having? Not
It's
having
like a
eyebrows is a thing.
People are bleaching their eyebrows like blonde and very light colors.
That frightens me.
I know
Like
it
in a way, like for real. Like when I can't see someone's expression, you know, like if I'm like, hey, what's up? Like, you know, like I'm curious, right? If you just have no expression, I'm not down with that.
You, so I tattoo my eyebrows on.
Well, good for you. Then we'll never have that problem.
Yeah. It's a good thing.
What do you mean, ho ho ho?
We're proud.
What are you, Santa? We were just having a thing. I just said if you didn't, they have them tattooed. We're never gonna have that problem. That was a compliment.
What are you, Santa? I can't. I'm just saying, people have to tattoo their eyebrows and fill in their eyebrows.
I have
because
my
of people
eyebrows
like
tattooed
you.
too.
What do you mean, people like me?
Yeah, because of people
We're
like
glad you have
That's
To shame no eyebrow wearers?
You said we're weird.
I didn't say you're weird. I said it looks weird.
Yeah, it's a weird.
If I showed up to your house with no eyebrows, you wouldn't acknowledge it?
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Alrighty. So, could we see a remake of the hit 1990 film Ghost? In a new Vanity Fair cover story, Channing Tatum revealed his production company has the rights to the original movie, and he's interested in doing a remake. But he said without all the, quote, problematic stereotypes. Now, he didn't elaborate as to what they were, but the original featured this iconic scene between Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore and made more than $500 million. Now, some people have since taken issue with how Whoopi Goldberg's Oda Mae character was portrayed and said Black and Hispanic people were shown in a negative light. Erica, what do you think about Channing Tatum remaking the movie and then also trying to be more woke about it? Or evolved, I
Yeah,
should say.
I'm going to be really honest. I remember parts of the movie, but most specifically, I remember Whoopi Goldberg in the movie, but I can't tell you details about it. And I think if we go through most movies that were made in that time and up until like yesterday, you are going to see that very stereotypical play on people of color, period. And that is something that we need to be very not only mindful of, but we do need to be proactive about making sure that people aren't stereotyped based on the color of their skin. If there is going to be a negative character, that character can look like anyone. I would have to see what that project looked like for a remake of Ghost, and maybe it would interest me now. I just don't really remember a whole lot about the movie.
Right. I just think, Erica, we're going to be in trouble if we remake any movie from the 80s. Any song, any nursery rhymes. Ring Around the Rosie was about what, the Black Plague, or everything from back in the day was problematic in one way or another. And if we are going to go back and give an accurate portrayal of that time and tell of that time, it's like the same way of saying, you know, Biggie's from Bed-Stuy. And if we're telling his life story, would there be some people on his block that were painted in a negative way? Would they probably be African American or brown folks? Probably. But if we did that story now, Bed-Stuy is a neighborhood that nobody in this room could afford to live in Brooklyn. So do we want to tell that story, or do we want to tell how it was when people lived there? So that's the decision that we need to have anytime we start talking about remaking movies, because we're in this weird thing as a society where anytime we start looking back in the past, we want to pick it apart. Now there's documentaries about Hugh Hefner and the Girls Gone Wild. Yeah, it was all terrible, but we were all a part of that. People all bought that. People all watch that.
Yeah, but we've evolved.
Yes, but now
We've all
going
evolved.
back and picking it apart, I think that's more like self-flagellation. because
You
we're
had me up
embarrassed.
until Playboy and Girls Gone Wild.
They were terrible. They were terrible people. But I feel like we, as a society, were complicit. That was on television. That was on television.
Network,
I do understand. I understand exactly what you're saying, but I also understand that much like the underbelly of a lot of enterprises that we celebrated and we put money into, it was very intentional for people not to know what they didn't know.
Absolutely.
Now, if we knew or society knew and excused it, I think those are two different things. But I don't think most people understood what was happening, in the underground of the Playboy Mansion.
When you're watching the E! Network and you're seeing an 80-year-old man mouth-kissing 20-year-olds, you understand what's happening. People co-signed and they watched that show for years. We are all complicit. I didn't watch that, but people, that whole era, everything was problematic until it wasn't. So we have to be honest about who we were and take pride in how much we've evolved and take pride that you couldn't even pitch a show like that now. I'm proud of us as a species for moving forward, but we cannot go back and just pick apart the past and act like everybody's got clean hands.
Why can't we pick it apart to be better? Why do we have to pick? Why does picking apart have to be a negative thing? Why can't it be as blatant as Channing Tatum said, and just, okay, I want to remake this movie, but I'm going to have to right some of these wrongs?
But then that's not representative of that era. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you go back and
do
make
it the
that
same exact way, he cannot.
then don't
We have
remake
evolved.
it. Set it now then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm down with that. Man, it goes now.
All right. Who
See?
should really
Figure it out.
quickly? Who should play Patrick Swayze? I miss him.
Channing Tatum.
No.
I think he's too like.
No.
It's got to be like a different kind
Like a
of guy.
Miles Teller, I think.
I don't even know who that is.
From Top Gun, Goose's son.
Oh yeah, he'd be good.
He still doesn't know.
I saw Top Gun. I was proud of myself. I got Top Gun because I got the surround sound. I want to hear the planes take off.
We're going to get 3 white men, and you have to pick out Miles Teller.
All right, we'll do that later. End of the break. Put your money up.